soldiers on the streets of the Thai capital taking up the battle against a growing number of coronavirus cases. Thailand reported its biggest single-day jump in infections, led by those who attended a boxing match at an entertainment complex earlier this month. Around 5,000 people were among the crowds and have since dispersed across the country.
There was news about other people from the boxing circle who were sick. On that day, the news was headlining all over the place, and I was stressed as I realized I might have it, as I had never felt any of these symptoms before.
The spike increases the number of infections by 25%, taking the total past the 400 mark. From the start of the year, Thailand has been vigilant in trying to keep high-risk visitors out of its borders, a tough call for a country which relies on tourism. And now another setback to its economy as the government imposes a partial shutdown of its capital. Singapore also reached a grim milestone with the announcement of its first 2 coronavirus fatalities on Saturday. There has been a surge in cases this week, but the health minister was quick to reassure the nation.
I know Singaporeans will be worried and anxious. We must take courage and not give in to our fears. We have announced a series of safe distancing measures yesterday, and we must all take the necessary precautions to keep ourselves and our families safe.
In South Korea, a slowdown in infection rates this week proved short-lived, with 147 new cases reported on Saturday. South Korea is still the second most affected country in Asia, behind China. Its rate of infection is significantly down from the peak at the end of last month, but public health officials warn that any recovery remained fragile and cluster infections could still emerge.
You may feel that the current situation has improved a lot compared to the past, but we continue to see group infections, inflow from foreign countries, and mass outbreaks at various workplaces.
South Korea has been fighting the virus through widespread testing without resorting to the lockdowns and heavy restrictions of movement which helped China contain the spread. Life in China is slowly returning to normal after reporting no new local infections for a 3rd day. But the authorities have warned that imported cases have risen by more than 200% this week, with an increase of dozens daily, all from overseas. The government is taking measures to screen and quarantine passengers arriving into the country, many of them students from Europe or the United States. Hong Kong had managed to prevent a rise in cases even at the peak of the outbreak in China, but the city is now facing a surge in infections, with the number of cases more than doubling in a week. The rise was mostly due to residents returning from overseas. But the government is highlighting another issue. People in Hong Kong have been vigilant from the start. On the streets and in public places, it's hard to find someone that's not wearing a face mask. But after months of taking precautions, staying away from crowds and social distancing, many are now dropping their guard. And that, the government says, is the biggest risk to the city and the main reason they're expecting a second wave of infections. Divya, Gopalan, Jazeera, Hong Kong.